Good evening, everybody. Happy hump day. Welcome to NFL Christmas Eve with Giants Collective. Want to thank Anthony for hosting in my place. Want to thank these three wonderful people for filling in for me as I needed. I took some very, very needed time in sunny Florida, and it was fantastic. I got away from all this stuff and all the crappy weather in the Northeast, and it was very refreshing. So I thank you guys for filling in. We are here. I mean, we are ready to go. Tomorrow night is the moment of truth, and without question. We're definitely going to know who we're going to take at number 3, and I think that we all know who we're going to take at number 3. But the big question is, what do we do with that second pick? Now, before we get into it, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for watching on YouTube. If you guys could do it, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. That's great. You can also check us out on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Those links to those media outlets are in the description. So if you want to catch the replay on one of those media outlets, that'd be great. Leave us a 5-star review. That would also help out the channel immensely. Adriana, number 1, how excited are you for tomorrow night? And number 2, what do you think the Giants do with that second pick?
I'm very excited because I'm glad that we're finally going to have some answers. The speculation feels like it has been going on for months. And because this team has been so bad, we have been talking about the draft since November? So it's so depressing. It's been such a long time. So I'm just happy that it's here between free agency and the draft. I feel like hopefully we're going to have some peace of mind going into this season and, hopefully some excitement too. So I'm looking forward to it. I think that they're either going to go offensive line or defensive line at 34. I think it's going to be either Donovan Jackson if he's available because he's someone that they brought in for a top 30 visit. And he's got guard tackle flexibility. So I think they're really going to like that. And if it's defensive linemen, I think it's going to be either Derek Harmon if he manages to fall out of the first round, which is iffy, but could be a possibility. Or who is the other guy that I'm thinking of? I want to say Darius Alexander, but I think he's going to be more of a 3rd-round pick. So I'm going to stick with those two, either Harmon or Jackson.
Anthony, how excited are you? And what are we doing with this? Because I'm guessing that all of us are in agreement. Abdul Carter seems to be almost a lock at this point for the Giants. So maybe he's not. You never know on NFL draft night. I mean, anything can happen, but he seems to be the thing. But the big question mark is what the Giants do with their second pick, whether it's day 2 or they go back into the first round. What do you think that they're going to do? Your gut feeling?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Abdul Carter at number 3, as we all do. I guess there's an outside chance they take Shedeur Sanders, but I think that's really unlikely. I saw some buzz today that maybe the Chicago Bears are interested in trading up to number 3. So I think that would only happen if the Giants got one of those Godfather offers that we've talked about. Maybe if they get a future first and then some, maybe they're convinced to trade down, but I don't think the Giants are going to do that. They've got an elite talent on the board at number 3 overall. I think they're going to refuse any trade offers. They're not going to pass up Abdul Carter. And I do think they're going to make 2 picks tomorrow night because I'm seeing a lot of buzz and rumors and stuff that they really like Jackson Dart and that they're already having phone calls with teams picking in the 20s. And there are a lot of teams in the 20s who are incentivized to move down. The Vikings, as we mentioned before we went live, are one of those teams. They only have 4 total draft picks in this year's draft. They need to accumulate more draft capital. They're a team that I think is going to be aggressive in an effort to trade it down this year. And I think the Giants, the Saints, and the Browns are all going to be aggressive in trading up. I think it's going to be a perfect marriage. I think there's several teams in the Vikings situation that want to move down. So ultimately, I think the Giants and maybe one other team will also be jumping into the back end of the first round and ultimately landing a quarterback. So I think we'll get 2 picks tomorrow night. One's Abdul Carter for sure. The other one, probably Jackson Dart, but hey, it could be somebody else. Maybe it's Shedeur Sanders if he begins to slip as well.
Chris, you and I will be our 7th year covering the draft together. And of course, we all know the first time we covered it was very infamous. That was the night the Giants selected Daniel Jones, and it has been the only quarterback that they have selected in the draft.
That's crazy.
Since. How crazy is that? Tomorrow night, what do you think they're going to do with their 2nd overall pick? We getting a quarterback, or they're going to stay put at 34?
Yeah, Abdul Carter's the obvious pick. Now he's even come out and literally said it.
Yeah, I know.
Like the day before the draft, and I don't see any surprises happening there. Like I think it was Ian Rappaport said today that he said that the Jaguars have like a full court press to try to move up to 2, but I don't see Cleveland doing that because Cleveland, their owner came out and said that he compared Travis Hunter to Shohei Ohtani. So like they're already they're already selling him. So I think the first three is like clear as day. Like it's kind of like a boring first three. I feel like the draft starts at 4. So like that's what it feels like a night before the draft. I think we're getting Abdul Carter, and I'm going to be thrilled with that, right? I said here for months that I wanted a quarterback because I want hope long term for the franchise. But I also said that I thought Abdul Carter was the best player in this draft class, and for the Giants to get a player at that position as talented as he is, I'm going to be thrilled on draft night. I think he's a guy that could transcend the defense. So I think most Giant fans will be thrilled with that pick, and then that's where the draft gets interesting for the Giants because we all agree about Abdul Carter. I think 99% of the fan base does. And I was agreeing last week with Adriana where I said, I think it's going to be offensive or defensive line. And if they stay at 34, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. It depends how the draft unfolds, and it depends on where they have these quarterbacks. I don't think they're going to be willing to trade up for any quarterback. I don't know which quarterback it is. We've heard rumblings that Dable prefers Jackson Dart. Who knows? It could be smoke. It could be nonsense. Maybe they prefer Shedeur Sanders if he drops. Maybe they prefer Jalen Milroe. I don't think they're going to be willing to trade up for any quarterback. If the right quarterback gets past the Steelers that they like, I agree with Anthony. It at least feels like the Giants are interested in potentially trading up. I also heard a rumor today that they're interested in that them in Washington have talked about a trade, which would be wild because I don't remember the last time, and I said in our group chat today, we remember times when teams from within the division traded with one another in the first round. All you got to do is go back to the Devontae Smith pick. But for a quarterback, that would be odd for Washington to allow the Giants to trade up to get a quarterback. But it does feel if the right quarterback is there, the Giants may look to make a move.
Yeah, I'm going to be thrilled with Abdul Carter. We watched him play in the national championship game. We were enamored, or it wasn't the national championship game. Sorry. Was it against Notre Dame? Who the hell did they play? I don't even remember. My brain is still on vacation, so don't mind me. But the games we watched Abdul Carter play, we were just enamored with how fast he was off the edge, a complete game wrecker. And Lord knows we need that. Our secondary was improved without a doubt, but I always say that a really good pass rush can hide a lackluster or average secondary. You can get to the quarterback. You're going to force bad throws. You're going to throw off the timing. And it'd be nice to get off the field on third down. It's something that we just don't seem to do. We're not able to get there with just 4 guys. You add a guy like Abdul Carter to go with a Brian Burns and a Dexter Lawrence, and that front 7 is really, really going to be formidable without a question. And again, I'm not comparing him to Lawrence Taylor without question. I mean, I'm not doing that, and I'm not comparing anybody to Lawrence Taylor. But the last time the Giants were in a situation like this so long ago, I mean, I was old enough, I was young, but Lawrence Taylor changed the landscape of what the New York Giants were. And I'm not saying Abdul Carter can be him, but he can definitely make a big difference. And defense wins championships. We've always won with defense here and running the football. That's the way. That's New York Giants football. You get a strong defense, you force turnovers, you don't make mistakes in offense. And if you can get off the field, you're going to have more time of possession for your offense. We always lose time of possession because our offense hasn't been any good. Well, now we got quarterbacks that seem like they can play at this level. We know Russell can play at this level. It should make the offense better. And when you can get off the field on third down, it's going to also make the offense better. It's going to make the defense better. So a guy like that can change it immediately. You need an impact guy at 3. You need a guy that automatically is a game breaker, a generational talent. That's what you want in the top 3. You can't take a guy that is a question mark. Of course, I mean, you can say everybody's a question mark because we all know that these guys don't always pan out. I do think Carter's a guy at 3. Now, as far as the second pick, it's going to be, I have a gut feeling. I do. Maybe it's just because as my fandom's coming out. I think they're getting Shedeur Sanders. I feel like they're going to get Shedeur Sanders in the back end of the first round. We saw the odds today in the group text that he slipped from being like 8th overall to 21st overall. And I feel like if he gets that far down, maybe the Giants do take a big swing at it. Again, Joe Shane has been very patient. However, this point, you get Abdul Carter, and then you want your quarterback of the future. Chris, you talked about it. If they win 5 games this year and you don't take a quarterback that plays, is he going to keep his job? He might take that big swing later in the first round. Say, I want the quarterback. I'm going to go up and get Shedeur Sanders. I don't care if it costs me 3 draft picks. I'm going to go with that guy. And then I'm going to say, listen, we got this generational pass rusher. We added some more players. And now we got the quarterback of the future. Let me have a couple more years of this team to build it. And John Mara may say, go for it. So this is why I think Joe Schoen might actually be, I don't want to say desperate, or he may be extremely aggressive going up and getting him. If Shedeur Sanders gets past New Orleans at 9, I feel like he's going to be a Giant. And maybe that's just me. I don't know.
It's in play. It's certainly in play. I for me, he's got to get past the Steelers. I don't think the Giants will jump the Steelers, but if he gets past the Steelers, I think it gets interesting.
So I was reading that the Steelers are one of the teams reportedly interested in trading down. And so I was just checking this out. According to Tankathon, the Steelers ranked 29th in the NFL this year in total draft capital. So obviously among the lowest amount of draft capital in the NFL. Only the Falcons, Commanders, and Vikings are beneath of them. So those are all teams that are definitely going to be looking to trade down. I also think the Falcons, for what it's worth, are one of those teams. If the Giants want to get up really far to 15, they might be looking to trade down. That would be for Shedeur. But the Steelers might actually end up moving down and then taking like a Milroe at the back end of the first round is what I was reading, because they need more draft capital on day 2, because I think that their only day 2 pick, let me confirm, is 83 overall. Going from 21 to 83 is a pretty wide gap. So they actually might be a trade down team. And I think that's why people are really feeling like Shedeur might slide even further than 21st overall.
Yeah, I'd be thrilled if they got them both. I'd be absolutely stoked, especially since a lot of Giants fans wanted Shedeur Sanders at 3. If you got Abdul Carter and Shedeur Sanders in the same draft, I think Giants fans might actually be a little bit optimistic for until the season starts anyway. Because as always, we know how it goes. But, we talked about this probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. It just shows you what kind of panel we have here and how we kind of have the pulse of the team, because I read an article in Bleacher Report today that an NFL executive came out and said the Giants draft Abdul Carter, Kavon Thibodeaux is probably on the trading block. Anthony, I know we discussed this already, but I mean, if they do take Carter 3, is it possible they make that? Let me ask you this. If they did trade Kavon Thibodeaux, when do you think that would be? Would it be the night of the draft, or would it be after the draft?
I don't think it would be the night of night 1. I think it might be on day 2, maybe prior to the second and third rounds kicking off on Friday night. Then a trade might happen, because I don't think they're going to get a first round pick anyway for Thibodeaux. And I don't think that he would be packaged to move up into the first round. So I think it would probably be, let's walk through a scenario where maybe they take Carter at 3, they trade up from 34, they take a quarterback at the back end of the first round, but at the expense of a third round pick in order to recoup that third round pick, or maybe a second round pick, whatever. That would be the Kavon Thibodeaux trade. So I think it would actually be going into day 2 of the NFL draft. But I don't think they're going to trade Kavon Thibodeaux. I've been pretty clear on this. I don't think it makes sense. I think it's a bad decision if they do. I think he's still young. He's only 24. He had a scheme change. There were a lot of factors playing against him. I think he's still going to be a really good player for the Giants. They just need to give him a little bit more time. I know that kind of sounds like what everybody was saying about Daniel Jones forever, just give him more time, but I think it's totally different with Kavon Thibodeaux. He was a top 5 pick for a reason, entered the NFL with far more talent, and I think it's been a tried and true method. Stack the defensive line with a ton of pass rushers. That's how you win a Super Bowl. Whether you're talking about the Eagles, we saw the Giants do it 4 times. They always had a great defensive line and pass rush. I think that it's crazy. I've never seen a fan base complain about having too many pass rushers until now. I think that's wild to me. Like, how can you ever have too many pass rushers? I didn't even know that was a possibility to have too many pass rushers. It's never enough pass rushers, in my opinion. That's why you draft Carter, you pair him with Kavon Thibodeaux, and you let those 2 young pass rushers with Burns and Lawrence just create one of the best defensive lines in football, and you try your best to lock them all up for the long-term future. That's my take on it.
Right. Chris, what do you think? When do you think they would make that move? And Anthony, to your point, they did mention it would be for a third round pick. Again, it's just NFL executives shooting the way we do if he's not in a long-term plan. Chris, do you think Kavon Thibodeaux is long-term for the New York Giants?
I think he's going to be a Giant this year. I don't think they trade him. The only way that I see Kavon getting traded this year is if he is unhappy. If he's unhappy with the reduced role, the fact that they drafted Abdul Carter, similar to what they did with Kadarius Toney, they get a guy out of there that they feel may be disruptive in the locker room. I'm not necessarily predicting that will be the case, but at least I think that's a possibility. If you took Abdul Carter at 3 overall, right? Kavon Thibodeaux's coming up at the point in his career where he's trying to get that massive contract, the next step. And if he feels this hurts his potential to reach the level that he feels he's capable of reaching to get a massive contract, he may be upset about that. But if that's not the case, if he buys in and he's happy, I agree with Anthony. You still have him another year on the rookie deal. You could extend him on the 5th year option. I think the deadline for that's coming up in a few weeks. I think you need to extend him. $15 million or $16 million a year for even a rotational edge in today's NFL is not a lot of money. Backup quarterbacks are getting $10 or $11 million. So you get him for 2 more years and you reevaluate. At that point, Brian Burns' contract's almost over. And if Kavon's playing really well, you could extend him. If not, you let him walk. Maybe you get a comp pick for him if he strikes it big in free agency somewhere else. So ideally, I think you try to keep it together. Like Anthony said, you can never have enough pass rushers. But could I at least see a situation develop at some point where he may want out and the Giants make a move? Yes, but I don't think it'll be during the draft.
Well, John, what do you think? You think Kavon Thibodeaux is in the long-term plans of the New York Giants, or is it possible that they move him after drafting Abdul Carter?
I think if they're going to move him, it won't be on draft night or this weekend. I think they're going to pick up his 5th year option. And my guess is that because they gave Shane Bowen another year and they figure they're adding more talent to this defense, they're giving everyone the option to kind of pick it up this year, right? They're not giving up on Tay Banks. They're probably not giving up on Kavon. They're not giving up on Bowen. So I think with the additions that they made in free agency and the thought that if they get Abdul Carter and they bring in someone from they bring in a defensive lineman in the draft too, and whoever else they add to help bolster the defense. I think the plan is going to be, let's see how this defense comes together this year and see how it goes. I also think that they're better off waiting to see if Kavon gets better, knowing there's another player in the rotation, or if God forbid Abdul Carter or Brian Burns gets injured, you need a third pass rusher. You don't have Azeez Ojulari anymore. And like we've all talked about, we want the defense and especially the defensive line and the trenches to be strengths of this football team. And it has been years since the offensive line and defensive line have been anything but very good for this team. So I think it's time that they make that a priority. It seems like they are, knock on wood. Let's hope that's what they do by getting Carter at 3. But as much as I think Kavon should maybe be on the trading block at some point, I don't think it's right now. And I don't think that they should be planning to move him immediately. Having a rotation at pass rush is something that, this Giants team could benefit from. And I really think that because they decided to keep Bowen, I think that that's part of the reason why, if they were maybe considering trading Kavon, they're figuring, well, let's see if he plays a little bit better this year. And instead of getting a 3rd, maybe we can get a 2nd or a late round 1st if he really steps it up and plays well. And this is a very deep edge class. So there could be a possibility that if they get Abdul Carter, maybe they take another edge later. If they do something like that, then I would say that Kavon is definitely on the chopping block. But we always complain about depth on this team, that I wouldn't be so quick to be like, we're going to get rid of Kavon right now. I think it's a possibility at some point, but probably not, like Chris said, through this season, especially assuming that they're going to pick up the 5th year option, which I think they will.
I agree with all you guys and lady. I think Chris is right. I think the only way, honestly, if he gets traded, it's going to be because he wants out. To your point, Anthony, and to your point, Adriana, can't have enough pass rushers. I mean, when we were winning these Super Bowls in 2007 and 2011, maybe it wasn't called this in 2007, but we know in 2011 they had the NASCAR package where they just had 5 pass rushers that just bum rushed quarterback, and we were one of the best defenses in football. You can never have enough guys to get to the quarterback. And if you had a guy like Abdul Carter, you could probably move him around. I mean, maybe he's that guy that you can line up on the left and on the right and blitz him up the middle. He's very versatile. He can do a lot of different things. And that way, maybe you could just keep Kavon Thibodeaux on the right and Brian Burns on the left. And then you got to worry about where's Abdul Carter when you got these other 2 guys. Plus, you got Dexter Lawrence in the middle. It's going to take up a lot of, I mean, it would be crazy to have that type of pass rush again. I'd be excited for it. What's that?
We're going to have it.
Right. I mean, that would be amazing. And, I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. This might actually be good for Kavon Thibodeaux because then he's going to have a little motivation. Hey, shit, this guy's going to come in and try to take my spot. I got to step my game up. The Giants, maybe he's thinking, well, they're going to take him. What are they going to do with me? So he might have to step up. A competition's good. Anthony, I think you talked about this at some point. They never brought in a quarterback. There was no competition for Daniel Jones. He was comfortable. It didn't matter how bad he played. He knew his spot was safe. But if they had a guy like Jameis Winston, when Daniel Jones was there, maybe Daniel Jones would have played, but he might not have. But when you have a guy that's like, oh, shit, I got to worry about my spot getting taken, it's amazing what a little competition will do to you. It makes you step up your game. It's human nature. It's a matter of survival per se, that he's going to want to keep his spot. but I would be thrilled to have a pass rush like that. And I agree with Chris. I don't think they're going to trade Thibodeaux unless, is it Thibodeaux or Thibodeaux? I say it differently every damn time I say it. What the hell? How the hell do you say it?
I say Thibodeaux. Yeah.
I don't know. I
think
say it different every damn time. I call it Thibodeaux, whatever. Kavon. Let's say that.
You say Tibbs. Say Tibbs.
Tibbs. But I think it'd be awesome. I think it'd be great to see a pass rush like that. Plus, you got Bobby Okereke, Micah McFadden. Like, you would think that front seven be pretty damn good. And then you added a couple of guys in your secondary. The Giants defense could be one of the better defensive units in the NFL. And again, that would make the offense better if you can get off the field. It would be really good. One hand wash the other in that aspect. I hope they keep Kavon, and I hope Kavon lives up to that number 5, because it would be amazing to see that again. So I'm optimistic that can happen, but we'll see. And again, I think we all know what Thibodeaux is going to be, or I'm sorry, I think we all know what we're going to do at number 3. We don't know what we're going to do at 34, whether it's going to be 34, 24, whatever, but I want to give a shout out to BetUS TV. They power stream. You can go over there. You can check out all the latest odds on the draft and everything else at BetUS TV. They have a great channel on YouTube. Go check them out. And as you can see, I got to get rid of this little thing here. As you can see, the team that drafts Shedeur Sanders, the Giants are plus 215. I don't know what that was a month ago, but I don't think this is bad. And again, maybe this is me being a fan, but 215 is pretty much a little less than 2.5 to 1. So it's not terrible odds. 2 to 1 pretty much is almost, I wouldn't say a favorite, but there's a good possibility he ends up being a New York Giant. And maybe, again, it's just me wanting him to be a Giant after we get Abdul Carter. But I don't think those odds are that long. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are about appropriate odds, but I don't think he's going to be a pick 3, as we've discussed.
No, not pick 3.
Yeah, if he gets past Pittsburgh, it all depends, but how they feel about him. But if he is their favorite quarterback on their board, if he gets past Pittsburgh, I think there's a very good chance he'll be a Giant. I think it'd be a rush between them and Cleveland, potentially maybe one other team to trade up and get him. But I think it all boils down to, does he fall far down enough in the draft? But I definitely think the Giants have a quarterback that they'd be willing to trade up for. I just don't know if it's Shedeur or Dart or whoever.
Adriana, how far up would you trade to get a quarterback if you're Joe Shane? I'm not saying you, just if you put you in Joe Shane's shoes for a second, how far up are you? Would you jump Pittsburgh, or would you wait till after Pittsburgh's pick?
If Aaron Rodgers was not being Aaron Rodgers, I would say that
we can't get through one without her getting Aaron Rodgers.
This fucking guy. I saw clips of the Pat McAfee thing where he was complaining about how the Jets handled it. And I was like, you know what? I'm rooting for Aaron Glenn. Fuck Aaron Rodgers. Put that man in his place. We're done with you. Like, that is how he should be handled. And the fact that he went crying on McAfee, I can't with that guy. I'm so done with him. He's the most annoying person in the world. And if I were the Steelers, like, it sounds like Mike Tomlin has a plan with or without Aaron Rodgers. God bless him. But I feel like if they had Aaron Rodgers and Mason Rudolph, you could make the argument, like the Giants, that they're probably not feeling like they have to pick Shedeur Sanders, and the Steelers have to get him at 21, or the Giants have to trade back into the first for him. But I think because there are so many question marks for the Steelers around that, I could definitely see them going Sanders. I also could see them going Milroe. I think the biggest question, is who do they like best? So if I'm Joe Shane, I'm calling Pittsburgh just to see if you can kind of get some idea of what they're thinking, especially at this point, so close to draft night. Maybe they're willing to negotiate, talk through some things, see what they're thinking. But I would not go past 21. That's the lowest that I would trade up for, because I just think that you're going to have to give up so much for Sanders at that point that he better be the starting quarterback at some point this year. Like, you better have a good dead set plan on this guy's our future. You're selling John Mara on this is the guy for XYZ. And at that point, I'm also like, if you're going to trade to 15 for him, You love him that much
Take
to
him
go
at
from
3.
34 to 15, but you wouldn't take him at 3?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't think it's worth it. I think you're going to have to give up so much to get there that like this guy better be the second coming of Eli Manning or else it's not worth it. And I get that you have to take some risk. I'm on board with a risk, but that's too far for me. I think that like, I would be willing to go to maybe 25. I don't think I'm going all the way to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head there. I think that's my mind. I think that's the Giants' mindset too. If they are even open to trading up for a quarterback, which we're speculating on that they could be, like you just said, and I've said it too over the last couple of weeks. If you don't feel strongly enough to take Shedeur at 3, you're not going to trade up into the top 12 to 15 picks to get him because of what you'd have to give up. I think he has to fall, him or whoever the quarterback is that they prefer has to fall past the Steelers for it even to make sense for them to trade up. I agree completely with what you said.
Anthony, how far are you going up if you're Joe Shane?
If I'm Joe Shane, I'm probably going up far. If it's me, I'm not going up that far. I think that going up to 15 would be on the table for Joe Shane because I think that when you put all of the evidence together and how much research the Giants have done into Shedeur Sanders and the fact that there are still insiders saying they can't 100% rule out Joe Shane taking Sanders at number 3 overall, I mean, everybody seems to be leaning it's going to be Abdul Carter, but I know Charles Robinson of Yahoo said there's still a slim chance. Maybe there's a last-minute push inside that front office. It could be Sanders at number 3. Meanwhile, we're expecting him to fall way down the board, but how far is he realistically going to go if there's a lot of teams clamoring to trade up for him? And if the Giants really do view him as their guy, yeah, I get the argument, just take him at 3 if he is your guy. But if they really, really like Abdul Carter, they're not going to pass up on him. I could totally see Joe Shane doing something crazy and getting inside the top 20. I don't think that he should. I don't think it would be worth it. I think you're probably dipping in deep into 2026 draft capital for that, and that would be a big no for me. I wouldn't be thrilled about a GM on the hot seat using 2026 draft capital to land a project quarterback in the middle of the first round. But if he does make it past the Steelers, I think there's a very realistic chance that the Giants will make that trade up. And I think that they would be most aggressive out of all those other teams between Cleveland, between the Saints and the Raiders. I think the Giants, because of how much homework they've done on Shedeur Sanders, would wind up being that most aggressive team. And so I could see them taking a quarterback and definitely Shedeur Sanders somewhere between picks 22 and 30.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like I mentioned at the top of the show, I wouldn't go up that far. But again, Joe Shane has been very patient. I feel like he has been very, under control. But I also feel like if he feels he needs to get his quarterback and doesn't want to pass on the generational talent, because Shedeur Sanders is not generational, I think we can all agree on that. I don't think he's this top tier quarterback. I think he could be a very good NFL quarterback, but I don't think he's an elite talent by any stretch of the imagination, where Abdul Carter is. So you take that guy for sure. And then you might have to roll the dice if you're Joe Shane, because Chris, as you mentioned a bunch on these shows, if he wins 5 games and doesn't have a future quarterback, it's very possible he loses his job. So he might have to take this big swing at this point. He hasn't taken a big swing yet. He's taken some nice swings. He's hit a lot of line drives, but this might be one where he says, I got to hit this thing out of the park. I'm going to take 34. I'm going to trade that. I'm going to trade a future second and maybe a 3rd round pick. And I'm going up to 15 to get Shedeur Sanders, because I want to say, hey, look at, we made a move. We got this pass rush. We got our quarterback in the future. And if it don't work out, it's not his problem. So again, I wouldn't do it, but again, desperate times.
And in that scenario, Bear Dog, and again, I'm thinking they're going to wait till after the shows, but I'm not ruling anything out. But in that scenario, you kind of go or appease both ways. You get the best player in the entire, or if not the best, the second best. Remember, Travis Hunter are pretty much widely regarded as the 2 best players in this draft, and you still get that piece, that future quarterback that could solve, I think, Joe Shane's biggest problem going into this year, having a future to sell to John Mara, where he gets to retain his job. So I think for Joe Shane specifically, that would be a grand slam first round for him, because I think it makes the team immediately better by getting in Abdul Carter, and you have that future quarterback that you could sell the fan base and John Mara on, that will likely get you to keep your job into 2026. So I think that's ideal for Joe Shane.
It's going to be interesting. The end of the first round is going to be very interesting to see what it might not be the Giants. It might be, like you mentioned, the Saints or the Raiders or the Browns, but somebody is going to make a move. I'd be shocked if all those teams stay put. They all need quarterbacks. That's if saying the Saints. I feel like Jackson Dart's going to Saints at 9. Maybe I'm insane. Well, I am insane, but I have a feeling the Saints are gonna do that. We'll see. Who the hell knows? But if they pass on a quarterback at 9, then we'll see. All these teams are in play, and obviously, if all the teams are in play, then the demand for these picks becomes higher. And
did you guys see what McShay said about pick 9 and Shedeur Sanders? McShay said he heard that the Saints would not take Sanders at 9 and they wouldn't take him at 40.
The Saints.
That's
but I think they like Jackson Dart. I don't think they take Sanders. I think Jackson Dart.
Yeah, he didn't say quarterback. He said Sanders specifically. Yeah. They wouldn't take him at 9 and they wouldn't take him at 40. That like blew me away. I'm like, wow, he might really.
Well, we've seen some of those anonymous quotes about Shedeur Sanders. I feel like that's a pretty good indicator of which team is having these anonymous quotes. I know it's been throughout the process that Sanders definitely rubbed some teams the wrong way at the combine and throughout his pre-draft visits. I think that's probably what Tom McShay is trying to imply, that Sanders really rubbed the Saints the wrong way.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think he's rubbed the Giants the wrong way, which is why I have a feeling the Giants are going to end up with them. But, it's not like I know what the hell I'm talking about here. I guess I certainly don't. Thank you so much, Sean.
Quarterbacks, though. There's always, last year it was, Caleb Williams paints his nails and he went to USC, so he's never going to get picked. Like, it's so stupid.
I don't understand the nail painting thing. Who cares?
But like, is that right? That's a reason.
Does that take his talent away?
His dad is Deion Sanders. We're not going to pick him because of who his dad is.
Yeah,
they did the same thing to CJ Stroud too. With that, they made fun of his IQ, like he did bad on the test or whatever. They always try to drag a quarterback down every year.
Yeah, it's great. He paints his nails. Okay, that takes away from his talent. I didn't realize that. I didn't know that. I'm not an analyst, so maybe next time I'm looking at these quarterbacks or whatever. He paints his nails. That means he sucks. I'll have to remember that. Maybe Daniel Jones should paint his nails, maybe to give him some power. Josh, thank you so much. He says, what about drafting 2 quarterbacks, both a second and a third round pick, one to replace Thibodeaux and one for the practice squad? Love the show. I don't think you would ever take a quarterback that high to join the practice squad. Those are usually undrafted guys like Tommy DeVito was, but I think it's just going to be one quarterback. I don't think they'll take 2 quarterbacks in this draft.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I don't think so either. But if they did, I would love if they got Sanders at 34, and then I would take Milroe, maybe either Milroe or Howard in round 3, if that's what they were going to do. But the fact that since Daniel Jones, they haven't drafted a single quarterback, I would be absolutely shocked if they did that. I think at this point, a lot of us would just be like, we'd be happy with 1.
Yeah.
Forget about 2.
I can't see 2. Had they not also signed Jameis Winston, I would say that that's a possibility to do like what New England did last year when they took 2 quarterbacks in the same draft. But being that they signed Winston, I don't even think that's a possibility. I think we're only drafting, and I think we are drafting 1. I don't know where yet, but I don't think we come out of this draft with 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think we mentioned that probably a couple months ago before they signed Jameis Winston. Now, it's possible to draft 2 quarterbacks. I mean, Anthony, what do you think?
I also think that they like Tommy DeVito as their practice squad quarterback. So I don't think they're looking to change the practice squad quarterback. Obviously, they're looking for a quarterback of the future. They're going to draft one at some point in this draft to be the QB3 on this roster and to develop long term. But I think Tommy DeVito knows the playbook. He's been there for a few years. Great locker room guy, super popular with the fan base, which I think is really important for a fan base that hates its own team right now. I think they like Tommy DeVito. I don't think they're in a rush to bring in a rookie and usher him out the door. He's only, 26 years old. So he's still a young guy. He's a decent backup quarterback. He's won some games for the Giants in the past. So I just don't think that they would throw a dart at like a 7th round quarterback in this year's draft because they have Tommy DeVito. He's a young guy and you might as well hold on to him and keep him as your practice squad guy.
Yeah, he's used to the team. He's used to the system. You wouldn't have to teach him anything. And it's funny, though, you mentioned, the fan base likes him. A lot of fan base didn't like him because they say that he cost us Jane Daniels, when I'll say a million times, sure, he played well and he was a nice story, but the defense had 13 turnovers in those 3 wins. So you blame the defense for that. I wouldn't blame Tommy DeVito so much as I would blame the defense. You want to blame somebody for us not getting.
Yeah, or just blame the opposing team for turning it over 13 times.
Right.
Against us. blame their quarterbacks. Don't blame DeVito.
Right.
Yeah.
We're all Italian. I mean, we love Tommy D over here. Tommy D over here. Jason, thanks so much. Call me crazy, but I don't see Shore Sanders dropping that far. I don't think it's crazy. We don't know.
He's the wild card of this draft at this point, and I did not think he was going to drop far. But at this point, I mean, who knows, right? There's a lot of nonsense before the draft, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe there's a lot of teams that are stirring negative drama, hoping that he falls to them in a certain spot at 9. Who knows? But it at least feels that way right now. I think he's going to drop. I don't know if he's necessarily going to fall to the first round, but bad dog at this point, I would be surprised if he goes in the top 10. I think he's going to get past New Orleans for sure. Maybe a team jumps Pittsburgh thinking they're going to take him, but I would be pretty surprised if he goes in the top 10 at this point. And that's a guy who likes Shedeur. I like Shedeur, but I don't think he's going top 10.
Yeah. Oh, to that point, I mean, Adriana's favorite quarterback dropped all the way to 24th in 2005. And he was like a consensus top 5 pick, right? So you never know. Every time I see Aaron Rodgers play, I'm going to think of Audrey. Anytime he gets hit and goes down, and be like, she's over there going, yeah, I love it.
I cannot explain to you how happy I am that the Giants did not sign him. Like, it's going to make me so happy to know that until he figures out what he's doing, it's not my problem. It's not. And I honestly feel bad for Steelers fans because I'm like, I've been where you are, and it is very unfortunate. But there's a small part of me that is like, I hope that he stays in football, because if he gets involved with politics, I can't. Like, I think that's going to be his next move. And I'm like, just stick to football, okay? We don't need you involved in that. Although apparently he's in a very serious relationship. So maybe he's going to settle down and have kids and leave all of us alone, which would be real nice.
I mean, damn, he had kids. He'd be
I'm sick of him too. I'm sick of him too, man. I'm sick of him.
I had a kid late in life, but holy cow, like he's pretty much my age. You better hurry up, man. You ain't getting any younger. Don't get easier as you get older. I can tell you that.
He's got to do the Pat McAfee show and just stick to that. I think he's done with football.
Just stick to that. That's what he needs to do. He don't need just fade off into the sun. The problem is with Aaron Rodgers, the ego's so big, he can't just go away.
That's what I'm afraid of.
No. Christian, thank you so much. He says, high expectations for this first round for the Giants, taking a day off Friday to follow it live from Norway.
Awesome.
We appreciate you watching from Norway. That's awesome. Wishing for Hunter, believe Carter. Yeah, we appreciate you. All the way from Norway. I am always amazed at the amount of Giants fans that are in different countries. We have a lot of Giants fans from Australia. Like, that's a big one. And obviously Christians from Norway. We got a lot of Giants fans from the UK. So I think that's really cool. And for all of our friends across the pond, across the Atlantic Ocean, we hope like hell that the Giants can give you something good this year, because believe it or not, they were good before. So I think we all have high expectations for the first round.
That's a real fan there. Norway, staying up late, taking a day off work. That's a real fan right there. But I agree with you, Christian. We all agree with you. I think that's who they're going to end up with, Carter. I we'll see, but that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I feel like for Giants fans, it's mostly interchangeable between the two. Like, whoever's there at 3, we're happy with Hunter or Carter. I think there's a portion of the fan base that would be happy with Sanders. And then there's, a portion of the fan base, like I see some comments that are like, they should get fired if they pick Sanders at 3. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
I hope for your sake.
See what happens first. Come on. Yeah.
Our fan base is very fickle with good reason. And we have sucked for so long, and the fan base is just aggravated. Like I said, the only way Joe Shane's going to win over the fan base is to win some games. It doesn't matter who he picks. He can pick that Bill Carter, and a lot of fans would love that. But if we don't win, that was the wrong pick. And listen, to be fair, a lot of his draft picks haven't really panned out. Now, this draft class seemed like it's going to be pretty good, but, look at his track record. It hasn't been great. So,
what the fans love is irrelevant on draft night. We all love the Jalen Hyatt pick. We all love the JMS pick. We all love the Evan
Thibodeaux. Yep.
So it's what we love is relevant. He's got to get it right, whether we like it on draft night or not.
Yeah.
Agreed. Edward Scissorhands, thank you so much. He says, no one's making a big enough deal about how bad we need to upgrade the offensive line. One man goes down. It's the same old shit. Go offensive line in the second round and double dip at offensive line and defensive tackle. I wouldn't mind a center to challenge JMS. Anthony, I think they're going to address offensive line at some point. How early do you think that they do it?
I think it's going to be earlier than people expect because most mock drafts have them kind of just passing over that position. But I think this is on the offensive line in this year's draft class. It's kind of thin in the later rounds, but it's pretty strong on day 2. And I feel like if the Giants don't draft an offensive lineman on day 2, they're going to miss that small window of opportunity. So let's say that they don't trade up into the back end of the first round and they hold all of their day 2 picks. I think with one of those 3 picks, either 34, 65, or 99, they will take an offensive lineman. It's kind of tough because we know that they have interest in running backs in that range as well and a few other positions. Obviously, defensive tackle, everybody wants a defensive tackle at 34, but the value on defensive tackle runs pretty deep in this class where it doesn't on the offensive line. So you might be able to get a starting level defensive tackle at 65 or 99, but you're probably not getting a starting offensive lineman at that position. So if the Giants feel like they need to get an instant impact offensive lineman, I think they're going to have to take one pretty early. But if they want somebody more developmental, like Edward Scissorhands mentions, somebody who's basically going to challenge another player like a center for JMS, then I guess they can afford to do it later on day 2 or maybe even day 3. But yeah, I think that day 2, it starts thinning out after about pick 65 on the offensive line. So it better be sooner rather than later if they're going to go offensive line early.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
I mean, the offensive line is always a problem for the Giants, so I'm never going to be upset if they take an offensive lineman. I don't expect one at pick 3, but they take one at 34, they take one at 65, they take 2 on day 2, whether it be 34 and 99, I won't be upset. You could never have enough offensive linemen. I'm a big proponent of always drafting at least one in every draft. It's the most important position on a football team in terms of a unit. Obviously, quarterback's the most singular important position, but in terms of depth at a position, there's not a more important position to have depth at on an NFL roster than an offensive line. So I'm completely for taking an early offensive lineman, and I think that's in play at pick 34. I don't know if it will happen, but I definitely think that's in play.
Adriana, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't disagree. The only thing that I will say to the fact that we haven't upgraded the offensive line is that in free agency, they did bring in 4 new offensive linemen. Plus, they still have John Runyon and Greg Van Roten. They brought in 2 tackles. They brought in 2 more guards. They still have like Morrissey and a couple of those other guys on the team. So I think that at where we are now compared to where we are last year, there are more offensive linemen on the team. That doesn't mean they're all great. So I'm definitely picking an offensive lineman in this draft. Like I said, especially at 34, if some of the better offensive linemen, like Josh Simmons or Donovan Jackson, if those guys slip into the second round, you have to take one of them at 34. And I think the way that some of their offensive line picks have not panned out, and the fact that they didn't pick an offensive lineman last year, we have talked about this, you have to build through the trenches. And I think it's great that it feels like there are a lot of bodies for the offensive line. And I'm sure Cameron Brasillo is happy that he's going to have, a lot of rotational guys to start the summer off, but it shouldn't stop there. Between the draft and, the post-June 1st cuts, like they have to bring in more offensive linemen and really see if they can get it figured out at this point, because it's obviously still not there and still needs work.
I could definitely see him doing it at 34. If they don't use that pick to go up and get a quarterback, you figure you would get Abdul Carter 3. That helps your defensive line. You go up, you get the best offensive lineman available at 34. That would help your offensive line as well. And I don't care how much the rules change or the game changes or whatever. I'll say it till the day I die. Games are won and lost in the trenches. Without question, the line of scrimmage is where this game is won and lost. It'll always be that way. That is football. I mean, if you have a good offensive lineman that gives you a quarterback an extra quarter of a second, that could be the difference between getting sacked and having a deep touchdown pass. And that's why you go and get Abdul Carter, because it takes that time away from the opposing quarterback. So I could definitely see them doing it very early in day 2 if they don't go up and get a quarterback. But I certainly wouldn't be upset with it either. We know the offensive line has been a major problem since the Jerry Reese days. It just hasn't worked. And even the guys that they've drafted have just been awful. Evan Neal has been a total disaster. Eric Flowers was a total disaster. John Michael Schmitz has been less than impressive. We have to fix this at some point, because it doesn't really matter who your quarterback is. If you can't protect the guy, he's going to struggle. We need to fix that, and it might be that's what they do to try to fix it.
That will never change. As much as some fans may want it to and think the game is, it's still the game, like you said, is going to be. All you got to do is look at the Eagles. The Eagles had arguably the best offensive and defensive line in football last year. They won the Super Bowl. The Giants have been dominated over the last 10 years for the most part in their division because the Cowboys have had a great offensive and defensive line. The Eagles have had a great offensive and defensive line. That's where games are won and lost, period. End of story. Having a great quarterback helps. It definitely makes the offensive line look better. It's the most important position. If you have an elite quarterback, you're always going to have a chance every year. No one's debating that point. But the games are still won and lost. Pat Mahomes lost the Super Bowl to the Tampa Bay Bucks, not because he was out thrown. It's because his offensive line couldn't block.
Same thing last year.
Yeah, same thing as last year against the Eagles. So that's where games are won and lost. Always. Oh, and that will always be the case.
Edward, thank you again, man. He says, get two run-stopping defensive tackles along with the guys you already have. Dexy will be fine, especially with Abdul Carter to help in the pass rush department. Cam Jackson. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, we only have so many picks, but I am definitely not opposed. If they took their first 3 picks and went trenches, I'm not going to be upset. We need that bad, especially like you said, Chris, in this division when the Eagles are defending Super Bowl champions because they have the best line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. That's how you win football games. Giants want to improve in that aspect. That's what you do. So I'd have no problems with whatever they do there. It'll be very interesting, though. That's why we love the draft. Like I said, it's NFL Christmas. That's what the draft is. We all get a bunch of new toys. We just hope that those toys last a long time and they're really good because sometimes you get a toy and you thought it was going to be great and it sucks. And that's kind of what our draft picks have been. Oh, this guy's going to be great. Ass. This guy's going to be great. Trash. Be nice to have a toy that is really fun to play with. Corp, thank you, brother. With that schedule, we have this coming season. Abdul Carter makes sense. We need a defensive juggernaut to survive the gauntlet. As we're moving up into the back end of the first, he says just stick and pick. Do you guys want to move up into the first round to get a quarterback, or you just be happy at 34?
First off, the first part of Corpse, I just want to say this schedule, next year's schedule, the schedule after that, it doesn't matter. Abdul Carter always makes sense for all the reasons that we just said. If you have a dominant pass rush, you look at the best teams in the NFC, they all have a dominant pass rush over the last 5 years. 49ers with Bosa, the Lions, obviously, and of course the Eagles, who we've been talking about. The Cowboys in recent history have been one of the better teams. Guess what? They have Micah Parsons. That could transform the defense. It don't matter what your schedule is. He makes a ton of sense. Arguably the second most important position on a football team. So, I think as far as if it was me, like what I'm hoping for, I think I've said this. I'm not going to be upset if they trade up for a quarterback, and I like Shedeur. It doesn't feel like the Giants do, though. But ideally for me, I want trenches on day 2. I want trenches on day 2. That's where we need to improve. And if you look around the league, how many impactful quarterbacks, like true impactful quarterbacks in the NFL right now, were not drafted in the first round? You have Jalen Hurts, and he has a situation from the heavens. And you have Brock Purdy, who has a situation from the heavens since they've been in the NFL. Outside of that, they're all first-round picks for the most part. You want to say Kirk Cousins? Oh, okay.
Russell Wilson was a third.
Russell Wilson, but not he's on the back end.
But he won a Super Bowl as a third-round pick.
Yeah, but you look at the
and
Dak Prescott. Yeah,
Dak also perfect situation. He's had a good offensive line, good defensive line, good weapons. He's had everything basically made for him since he got there.
But if you were to name the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL right now, they're all first-round picks. Well, unless you want to argue Hurts because he won a Super Bowl, but they're all first-round picks. So for me, I just think the likelihood of hitting on a quarterback that late in the draft, especially in a class that is not thought to be the strongest at that position, for me, I want them to go D-tackle or offensive line at pick 34. If they don't like a quarterback enough at 3, that's what I want. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's what I want.
I feel the same way. Like at 34, I just think that you can get such good quality talent there, especially in this draft. But if you could get Abdul Carter, Josh Simmons, or Donovan Jackson at 34, and then at 65, you get a really good defensive lineman, who is not happy with that draft? And I know that people are going to say, oh, well, we need the quarterback, blah, blah, blah. Get Will Howard in round 4. Like, he's not going to play. I mean, I don't even think – I'm really torn on the, like, is it even worth to pick a quarterback in the 4th or 5th round? I think you can make an argument that you never know. It could always be the outlier to the rule. Fine, give it a try. But also you could just get a pretty good football player that plays a different position that could step in and be a good football player on this team. So I'm on board with, a 4th rounder. I like Will Howard. That's fine with me. If you get those other 3 players in the first 3 rounds, amazing. And then next year you focus on getting your guy in the draft. It's a good quarterback class. Next year, I could give you 4 names to watch that are going to be exciting. Hopefully have a good year this year. And that would be my plan. Like, I just don't really think, with the way the Giants are set up right now, with the way that this draft is looking, I'm not dying to trade out of 34 at all. I did a little mock draft. I traded from 34 to 35 and got a couple more picks. Fine. I'm fine with that. But I am not trading to 24 for Jalen Milroe. It's just unacceptable to do that.
I don't think I'd be happy if they did it for Milroe, because I don't think Milroe is going to play
Or
anytime
Dart.
soon.
I'm not doing it for Dart either. I'm just not sold on either one of those guys.
We're going to see. I mean, that's
again, I'm not, if they do it, I'll be, I think that's the more exciting pick. Like, I'll be excited if they trade up for a guy like Shedeur Sanders or whoever they deem the quarterback is. But I just feel like if you truly believe in that quarterback, you're taking him at 3, and that's just how I feel.
About 24 hours. We're getting ready to go here. 24 hours, and we pick quick. So I like you said, you pick 3 is boring in a sense because you know who we're taking. Not boring at all. That the player is going to be amazing.
He won't be boring in September.
Correct.
But
it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. There's no mystery here.
Yeah.
But what they do afterwards, who knows? Shane, thank you so much, man. By the way, if you guys haven't done so, do us a favor, hit the thumbs up because it helps out the stream. We're 9 likes away from 200. So hit that thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll be doing this. We do it twice a week. And obviously we'll be doing it all into the off season and obviously next year. So we will be live now. Friday, it's a different time. It'll be 5:30 because the draft starts at 7. And I know all of us are going to cover the draft individually. So we're going to be live at 5:30 tonight. We're going to discuss what we think is going to happen in day 2 and obviously what happened in day 1. So make sure you tune in. It's a special time at 5:30, and then we'll pretty much be back to the 7 o'clock time slot Wednesdays and Fridays. So make sure you guys like and subscribe. And again, check out Amazon, Apple, and Spotify. Those links are in the description as well. Shane, thank you. He says, best case scenario for us is Carter at 3, trade back for either Sanders or Dart as a project, hoping we can land Arch when he declares, and maybe 2 more rings with another Manning. The Arch thing to me is far-fetched. I can't go out. Yeah, it's 2 years. He's going to finish college. He's not hurting for money.
It could happen, but if we get Arch, Shane, that means this team's going to continue to suck for the next 2 years. So I'm not hoping for that. I want this team to win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years. Not realistic, I know, but that's what I'm hoping for as a fan. For us to get Arch, we're going to have to be picking first overall, because if he's as good as people are making him out to be, and I do think he's good. I need to see more of him before I say he's a slam dunk pick, but I do think the limited that I've seen of him, I think he's good. If he's that good, Bad Dog, teams aren't going to trade out. Titans ain't trading out of 1 this year. The Bears didn't trade out of 1 last year. If you love that quarterback, you're not trading out. So the Giants aren't getting him if he's going to be as good as some people may think, unless we have the first pick. And I don't want to have the first pick in 2 years. I don't want the first
all you got to do is look at Cam Ward. I mean, would you say Cam Ward's better than Arch Manning?
Probably not as a prospect. No.
The Titans aren't trading away Cam Ward. So, like I said, there is no one on the face of the planet that's trading out of 1 for Arch Manning, and you don't know when he's declaring. I don't think it'll be till 2027 because the Mannings typically finish college and then they declare. So I can't look at 2 years from now and say, if it happens, it happens. But it's too far in the future. And who knows where the hell we're going to be in 2 years. I hope we're not picking 3rd again. I tell you that, like I said, I hope we're picking like 32nd. That'd be great for once.
Good. Also, everyone's forgetting about the fact that that Archie Manning, as well as his father Cooper and his uncles Peyton and Eli, are going to be extremely involved in his draft process. You think Deion Sanders is involved? Wait until Arch Manning comes out in 2027 or 2028. There is zero guarantee that they are all going to convince him to come to the Giants, especially if the Giants don't have the first overall pick then, which is probably unlikely. And especially knowing the fact that his grandfather said that he wants him to go to the Cowboys. And at that point, Dak Prescott could be out of the picture. When you have his uncle who has won 2 Super Bowls with the Giants, if he comes here, he's going to live in Eli's shadow and everyone's going to hate him unless he wins 2 Super Bowl MVPs, probably a third. Then we're going to like we're going to like Arch as much as we love Eli. And if you're Arch, you're not signing up for that. And you're not doing it to the Broncos or the Colts, where your uncle also went and had a hell of a career. I think there's a 0% chance he goes to any one of those 3 teams. And what is so embarrassing to me is that I have talked with a million Colts fans and they're all like, Arch Manning literally never crosses our mind. Do you know who their quarterbacks are? They're in such a shitty situation with Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, and not a single one is sitting around like, oh, Arch Manning is going to come see Peyton Manning played here. We are insane, okay? Insane.
The thing is, when Eli came out, we're going back over 20 years ago now, in 2004. There's no way, I don't think, that Archie Manning, who clearly liked the Giants in that situation, views the Giants the same way he did back then. Back then, the Giants were a stable organization. Back then, the Giants were a very well-run football team. They had a sound offensive line. They had a sound defensive line. The Giants are not that anymore. They're completely unstable. That the Mannings don't love the way that the Giants treated Tom Coughlin on the way out, the way that they treated Eli Manning on the way out. I just don't think that they would even view the Giants as nearly as favorable as a destination as they did when Eli Manning came out in 2004. And I don't think enough people take that into account. They're just like, oh, it's the Manning name. He'd want to be a Giant. No, that doesn't mean he'd want to be a Giant.
Why would he be a Saint?
Did you forget his uncle is Peyton Manning too? Like, Eli's not the only Manning who won a Super Bowl.
Right. And like I said, his grandfather's Archie Manning, played for the Saints. Why wouldn't he go to the Saints need a quarterback? Who's to say the Saints don't get him? Who's to say you don't play there? Obviously, they're from the South. You don't think they want him to go to New Orleans? Just because he's related to Eli doesn't mean that he's automatically going to be a Giant, that we own the rights to Arch Manning.
Yep.
It's just, I understand the fan base clamoring for that because the last time we were any good, Eli was our quarterback. But again, it's just so far into the future. And
I'd be excited to happen, but I'm not thinking it's a realistic possibility.
Neither am I.
Or something I'm hoping for because I don't want the first pick.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. Kevin, thank you, brother. Carter will be the 4th defensive lineman. We brought in others in free agency. And for defensive line and secondary, focus on the offense who can't score points for their life. Quarterback, offensive line, wide receiver, Hyatt is done. Slayton has no hands. I agree they need to fix the offense, but you can't pass on Carter. Mm-hmm. Defense can help your offense. You get off the field, it's going to help. And Russell Wilson, granted, he's not in his prime. He's the best quarterback we've had in years. And I think it'll be a big difference when you have a quarterback that can get rid of the football, that doesn't hold on to it, that is careful with the football and can read defenses and make accurate throws. I think Russell Wilson is a massive upgrade to what we had. Is he the future? No. But I think it's what's the word I'm looking for?
A bridge.
Right. It's a bridge, but it's good enough. You know what I mean? You have baby steps. You can't get it all in one draft. Can't get it all in one, off season. I think the offense will be better. It's not going to be an explosive offense, but I think it'll be serviceable.
Yeah. Also, I get the quarterback and offensive line thing, but I think you're kind of ignoring the fact that we brought in 2 veteran quarterbacks in free agency. We signed 4 offensive linemen in free agency. They re-signed Darius Slayton, which I know you say he has no hands, but he's one of the better receivers on this team, obviously outside of Neighbors. And if they're going to go any position in probably the first 3 or 4 picks that are going to help the offense, it's going to be a running back because this is a running back heavy draft. You don't just pick a wide receiver because you have to. I really like Savion Williams. He's a guy that I would like them to pick in the 3rd or 4th round, but I think it's more likely that they're probably going to go running back, and offensive line, I think, will be the first 2 positions that they go for to upgrade the offense based on everything that they did in free agency.
I agree. In terms of skill position, I definitely think running back's the first position the Giants draft in this draft. Before a wide receiver, I think they'll take a running back.
And they
I also
invested
think
taking a wide receiver last year. I mean, with Neighbors.
Yeah, I think the Giants view Russell Wilson as their upgrade at wide receiver because they have a better quarterback throwing the ball to these wide receivers. I think that they view Hyatt and Slayton and these other guys as being
at first, Anthony,
held back.
At first, I thought you misspoke there, but that's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, but I think that they view these receivers are going to play better because they're playing with a better quarterback. I think they thought they were held back. I think Joe Shane pretty much said as much during his bye-week press conference and, at the end of the season. I mean, they all made it very clear that they felt as though they were a quarterback away and that was their number one mission and that they liked the young group of playmakers that they had. Joe Shane has mentioned Tyrone Tracy many times. He's mentioned Wanda Robinson. He's even mentioned Theo Johnson a bunch in all of his press conferences. So I think the Giants think that getting a better quarterback in here, even an average one, if that's how you view Russell Wilson, that's ultimately going to be the biggest upgrade to the offense. And maybe Slayton's no longer a ball drop machine. Maybe it was the way Jones was throwing in the ball. Who knows? I think that a lot of these players are going to play a lot better with a much better quarterback on their center.
It's a great point because if a lot of these quarterbacks, we talked about Daniel Jones throwing the ball late, throwing it behind him. I mean, he didn't always put the ball in the best position to be caught. And Russell Wilson may throw a better football and put the receiver in a better position to hang on to the football where, he's not hanging his receiver out to dry where the guy's like, I'm going to get killed because Daniel Jones throws it and I got to leap over the middle of the field with the safety rushing down on my ass. And you might get a little bit scared. And, you talk about Hyatt's done. Maybe Hyatt is done, but I like the fact that Russell Wilson kind of mentioned that Hyatt is untapped potential. And while he may just be a one-trick pony, we don't have that absolute burner. And he can be very effective in that role if you have a guy that can actually get him the football. We all know Daniel Jones didn't throw the ball deep. So it really took away Jalen Hyatt's value. So a guy like Russell Wilson can certainly bring that out in him. And maybe he does actually. I'm not saying he's going to be an elite guy or, this big time playmaker, but maybe he is a guy that gives you that big play once in a while. The guy that threatens the defense deep. When you have guys like Wandale Robinson that can work underneath, guys like Theo Johnson that should be very effective in the passing game. And of course, Malik Neighbors is an absolute animal. He's a savage. So, Anthony, great point. I mean, that really is the upgrade. That really is a big upgrade to the wide receiving core because you have a quarterback that can actually get these guys the football. And again, is Russell Wilson our guy for the next 15 years? No, but this offense is going to be watchable this year because it's been unwatchable. But I think we can watch and go. We're not going to be worried every time every time Daniel Jones drops back the pass. Like, what's he going to do now? Where's this ball going? How's he going to screw it up? I don't think you have to worry about that, Russ.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a different Hyatt this year for two reasons. Number one, he put on 10 pounds. He's going to be better, hopefully, on contested catches because he's actually going to be able to fight the ball out of people's hands. And second of all, the fact that Russell Wilson has mentioned him on multiple occasions in his press conferences makes me feel like they have some sort of plan that they are actually going to use Hyatt in. And maybe the biggest reason is the fact that they have a quarterback who's going to be able to get the ball to Hyatt in the right spot. So I would say, I think it's too soon to give up on Hyatt just yet. I know everyone wants to say he's done and call him a bust, but the fact that he put on weight, the fact that Russ Wilson is here and repeatedly talks about him, I think he's going to instill some sort of confidence in him that it's going to help him take the next step. I don't know. I have a little bit of faith in Hyatt.
Yeah, so does Russ. And I think it's important that your quarterback has faith in a wide receiver. That could go a long way to a young player like Jalen Hyatt says, wow, this guy is going to the Hall of Fame. He's going to Super Bowl and he has confidence in me. And he, I think that actually helped Darius Slayton. And I know Daniel Jones was the best quarterback, but it was obvious that Daniel Jones had a lot of faith in Darius Slayton. And he's had a very solid NFL career as a fifth-round pick. I mean, that was a good value. Darius Slayton isn't the greatest receiver, but he's not terrible. He can make plays. You got good value there. So
that was a great pick. Whenever you get 7 or 8 years out of a fifth-round pick, that's a phenomenal pick. It's one of Dave Gettleman's best picks.
Think about who's throwing the ball. So again, maybe this is what Jalen Hyatt needs is just a quarterback to have confidence in him.
Yeah.
Maybe Daniel Jones didn't have confidence in him. So, or confidence in himself for that matter, because we know Daniel didn't have confidence in himself at all. And it showed every time he dropped back to the football. Edward, thank you. Andy says, thanks. You guys are the best. As I always say, how can we be the best when you're the best? But Entertainer, I miss your solo show. You're the OG.
Appreciate it, Ed. Hopefully I'll do some more during the season this year. I was going to do one tonight, to be honest with you, because I normally do that like the night before stream, but I'm exhausted from work. I came on here, talked Giants for an hour, and we got 3 long days ahead of us between me and Bad Dog. So.
Yeah, it's my wife's favorite weekend of the year. Chris, he's all yours. She loves it. Chris, he's all yours for the next 3 days. I say that all the time. Really good. Chris, he's your problem.
But appreciate all you guys that coming over here, watching us, supporting this channel, and
this channel's growing like crazy. So we really do appreciate it, man. It's been a lot of fun, and Friday's going to be a good show because we're going to have a shitload to talk about. The questions will be answered, and we're going to know exactly what we did, and then we'll speculate in day 2, but Friday's going to be a great show.
Carter love fest from all of us.
Yeah, true. I'm a firm at Trumbull Ave. I hope I said that right. Did you see Tom McShay finally come out and say Sanders' combine visit didn't go well? He hinted at it a few months ago, but finally said it. Which team told him? I did not see that.
No, I didn't see that.
No, I did not see that.
Did he specifically say the Giants? Because what I saw from McShay, he said the Saints specifically. Maybe he did.
I just found the quote. So the quote is he said, Shedeur Sanders is not going to be a New York Giant. Shedeur Sanders is not going to be a New Orleans Saint. Then he went on to say some interviews didn't go well, including with the New York Giants. And then he went on to say it didn't go well with Brian Dable and with the Giants organization.
Wow.
He's out, man. He's out.
That could bridge the gap on the reports that stated that Dable prefers Dart to Sanders. That could be why. Maybe just interviewing personality.
I don't think he would come out and say that strongly and mention the Giants specifically. We're out on Shedeur. That's what it's
for. That actually sounds like it. So I take back what I said. He's not going to be a Giant. I didn't realize that would happen. That is strongly against him.
I think this Dart hype is all BS.
We'll find out. We'll find out tomorrow.
We are going to find out. Janita says Russ and Jameis will expose how much Daniel Jones unfortunately held us back for so long. I don't think anybody disagrees with this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Russell Wilson, again, I think his best days are behind us, but I think that you're going to have a serviceable quarterback, a guy that can actually play at this level. I don't think Daniel Jones could play at this level. And I think it is going to show how – I thought Tyrod Taylor gave us a better chance to win the year he was here when he got in there, because at least he took some shots deep. At least he looked like he didn't – I forgot who said it. It's still my favorite quote. Fuck it, leaks down there somewhere. It's still my favorite quote. It pretty much just even if shit up there, I don't care. It'll be fun. I don't know if it'll be fun, but like I said, it'll be watchable. We'll be able to watch it. Truth, whoops, where did that go? Truth says tomorrow night will tell us exactly how many teams really fit. True. We're going to find out what happens with Shedeur Sanders and who really believes in him. But if these reports are true, it does sound like Anthony mentioned it. It sounds like he rubbed a lot of teams the wrong way. And we know that the Giants supposedly loved this guy. But if that comes out, that
they did more work on him than any team did on any prospect this offseason. So
yeah.
But that's why I'd be surprised why all of a sudden after their combine interview, they're just out on him. Like, I don't buy it. This kid has been media trained since he was 5. He knows what to say. He knows, what's going to go well in the NFL and what's not. I don't know. I'm not sold on this. I think he's still going to go in the first round. I don't think it's going to be the Giants because I think they're going to pick Carter, but I think he's either going to the Saints, the Steelers, or I think there's a possibility that the Browns move from 33 in to get him. And then if you take Hunter, why would you not do that? Like, even if the Giants took Hunter, I would be like, all right, I'm down for moving in for Sanders because you got Sanders and Hunter.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Truth Bear says the craziest irony is the media is like, how can the Giants compete in the NFC East with Dak, Hurts, and Jada when Russ is literally the pioneer who opened the door for quarterbacks like that, and Jalen told him that. I agree. The only thing I would say this is I don't know about Jaden Daniels per se, but Dak and Hurts definitely have better situations around them than Russell Wilson is going to. I don't think there's any question, especially Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is I don't give a shit. I mean, people get on my case all the time because I don't love Jalen Hurts. I don't think Jalen Hurts is a bad quarterback, but I certainly don't think he's an elite quarterback. I think he benefits from everything being great around him, and he just doesn't mess it up. I mean, that's what I look at, and I will always sit there and go, you think Jalen Hurts is putting up the same numbers with the Giants? Of course he's not. You have to be a fool to think that he's the same quarterback on a bad team as opposed to the best team in football. Yeah. So I think Russ will make our team better, but I think that, well, I'm not Dak anymore. I'm still saying it. Timestamp it. Bad dog has a bad take. We're finishing out of Dallas this year.
I don't think that's a bad take. I think that's a very possible take. I won't use the term likely, but very possible. To his point, I don't think the reason why most people think the Giants aren't going to compete from within the division is because of Russell Wilson. I think it's because of the overall roster. They just don't think we're as strong as the Eagles are, and Washington's quarterback is just way better. As Russell Wilson's decent. I'm not ragging on the guy, but Jaden Daniels last year, he played at an MVP level. So I don't think they think we stink because of Wilson. It's more so the overall team. But I do think the defense could be, like we've talked about during the show, really good. And if the offense could be approaching league average, even with the really tough schedule, I don't think it's crazy to think the Giants could be middle of the pack. I just don't think we're competing for a Super Bowl.
Me neither. Nando, thank you so much. Me and my son Elias are excited for tomorrow. We're going to be watching you guys tomorrow. Remember not to curse. Kids are watching your channel. Go Giants. I do my best, man, but there's no guarantees. It's just, I can't guarantee anything, man. I'm an emotional guy. I
don't think we're going to curse tomorrow, Bad Dog, though. It's clear as day we're getting Abdul Carter.
I'm not going to lie to you. If we took Ashton Genty 3, I'm cursing. So if you hear that pick, Nando, mute the stream. Mute it. If we took Ashton Genty 3 or Jackson Dart 3, click the mute because the F-bombs are flying. I'm warning you now. But I think
what about this? Because Daniel Jeremiah just released his final mock draft, and he has the Giants taking Abdul Carter at 3, and then he has a projected trade, the Giants and the Seahawks at 18 to get Jackson Dart. That would piss me off because they would have to give up a lot to go from 34 to 18 for Dart.
See, I like Jackson Dart, but I don't like Jackson Dart at 18.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not in love with this quarterback class. Like, I like a bunch of the guys. I like Will Howard. I like Kyle McCord. I like Jackson Dart and Jalen Milroe. I don't love any of them, and I've watched a lot of them, and we've talked about them a lot. Getting up into 18, and it's kind of what Chris was saying. If you're not willing to take the guy at 3, you're going to trade future draft capital, extra picks to get all the way to 18 and take him. I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Like I said, though, I think it would upset the fan base, but I just think
it does feel like Dart is their guy. That's what it feels like, and then it could be smoke. But if they are taking a quarterback, to me, it feels like Dart's their guy.
It could be, and like I said, I mean, I wouldn't be happy with them trading up that far.
I don't want,
but it would not surprise me because I do think Joe Shane at some point needs to swing for the fences. If it means saving his job to say, I got our future quarterback, now let me build around him.
I'm not going to flip out if they do it. I won't flip out because that's his guy. Like you said, he's taking his shot. That's his quarterback. Will I like it? No, I think it's stupid. I think if you truly, really liked Jackson Dart, and if you're trading up to 18, you're selling the fan base that he's your quarterback. Why didn't you just take the guy at 3?
That's
you get Bill Carter at 3.
Yeah. It's the most important position.
Yeah, and if you love Dart so much that you won't pick him at 3, but you would at 18, why don't you trade from 3 to 10 or 3 to 12? At least get a first-round pick for next year if you're planning on picking Jackson Dart and having to move that much. Like, if you're not picking Abdul Carter, then move out of that spot.
That's a good point. I mean, if they really do like Dart at 18, they literally could trade back. But then again, if they trade back and the Saints grab them at 9, then they're messed up. I'm not going to swear. Just totally not. They're
I also think it's worth noting in this mock draft from Daniel Jeremiah, he has Dart 18. He has Sanders at 21. So maybe there is some credence to what Ty McShay was saying. Maybe the Giants really don't want to draft Shedeur Sanders, and maybe Jackson Dart is their QB2.
Feels like it.
We're going to know tomorrow. Jason, if anyone said, thank you, Jason. He says, if anyone believes McShay Can I sell you a George Washington Bridge? Shane keeps things close, but now McShay has info all of a sudden. Listen, man.
Could definitely be. Who knows, man? Who knows?
What does Shane keep close?
What's that?
What does Joe Shane keep close? Like, we all knew it was either going to be a trade up for a quarterback, and when that didn't work out, we knew it was going to be Malik Neighbors last year. We knew that they loved John Michael Schmitz when they drafted him. We knew it was Deonte Banks. The day before it was Deonte Banks. I don't know. We've known the first round pick every goddamn year. He doesn't keep shit close to me. I don't.
Right. And we also knew he was going to trade Kadarius Toney, even though we knew he was going to. He really doesn't. He kind of.
I think we know everything he does.
Gentlemen who pretty much just come out and tell you who he was drafted. But I agree. I don't think there's a lot of secrets with Joe Shane.
Matt Stafford that got out of the bag real quick.
That's
Aaron Rodgers got out of the bag real quick.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, again, we'll know tomorrow. Jake, thank you. Carter 3, currently 34. Collins get in third round BPA.
I like it.
It's a good mock. Good mock.
Yeah, I'm starting to lean that, and maybe I'm just getting too much caught up in the stuff the night before. But Bad Dog, sometimes the stuff the night before, as we know, carries weight. We didn't believe the Daniel Jones stuff the night before, and a lot of the beat reporters were saying it the night before. I was like, "There's no way," and it happened. So there's been a lot of chatter the last 2 or 3 days that the Giants like Jackson Dart. A lot of chatter. Brian Dable specifically.
Yeah, but last year they loved JJ McCarthy. They were not passing on JJ. They hung out with him on Easter.
True. We're gonna find out tomorrow. So with that said, this brings another edition to Giants Collective to a close. Going to be having so make sure you like and subscribe. Check out the other media outlets, Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon, and check it out because you can find us streaming on all those media outlets as well. But like I said, hit the like, subscribe, ring the bell. We'll be back Friday, special time, 5:30. We're going to discuss what they did in day one and what they may do in day two. We're all anxious for it. NFL Christmas is tomorrow. Hope you're as excited as we are. Thank you, as always, for supporting the channel that continues to grow at a rapid rate, and we really appreciate your support. So with that said, for Audron, Anthony, and the entertainer, we'll see you on Friday. Enjoy the draft, everybody. We'll see you in a couple nights. We out. Peace.